There are tons of amazing abilities for you to unlock in Final Fantasy 16, from powerful AoE spells that also heal you to amazing counters to turn the tables in a boss fight. I'll be running down the best abilities in the game as well as some personal favorites in this video. Before we get into the specific abilities, just a quick reminder that by mastering an iconic ability, so by upgrading it twice, you can slot it under any icon's ability selection. Meaning that if you see an ability here that you really like, but you don't like the icon it's attached to, you can still make it fit in your build. The only exception to this rule are the intrinsic abilities bound to the circle button like Phoenix Shift, which I'll refer to as circle abilities in the video. And while it might take you a bit to get the required ability points, one ability I definitely recommend grabbing is part of your first icon's ability set, namely Phoenix's Flames of Rebirth. This is an awesome AoE spell that for one looks amazing, but it also heals Clive when you use it, although it only restores the grayed out portion of your health. This is the only ability in the game that also has the capacity to heal you, so that already makes it very valuable. But as a damage ability, it's also very strong as it has a very wide blast radius, meaning it can easily hit large groups of enemies. Upgrading it once will have Clive unleash a second wave of flames, making it even stronger. And don't worry about the lengthy animation, as the game actually slows down as soon as the ability starts. So to sum up, you have a powerful AoE to clear groups and also heal Clive, during which you also don't need to worry about getting hit. So an awesome addition to your arsenal, although it does kind of take you out of the flow of regular combat. Luckily, there are also some abilities that can actually extend your combos, my favorite of which being Wicked Wheel. It's part of Garuda's ability set, so you'll get it relatively early in the game. And while you can use it from the ground to pull enemies up into the air with you, you can also use it during an aerial combo to lift yourself and enemies up even further. So what I do is I drag an enemy into the air with Aerial Burning Blade, which you perform by holding square, then jumping and letting go while Clive is in the air. I then do a 3-hit combo, pull the enemy back towards me with Deadly Embrace, and then use Wicked Wheel to lift up even further and continue the combo. You can keep a single enemy in the air for a very long time this way, meaning any other melee enemies are unable to hit you back. And as you might have noticed at this point, we'll only be focusing on iconic abilities in this video. If you want to know about the best general abilities, check our Amazing Things to Get Early video, link for that will be in the video description.
Hey Dennis, I wanted to chime in here because another amazing ability I've been using a lot that also makes sure enemies are unable to do anything back is Ignition, the Ifrit ability you can also unlock relatively early on. You equip it in one of the Phoenix slots, and I just love to activate it at the start of a battle and then try and grab as many enemies as possible. They will be stuck, take massive damage, and get knocked down at the end of the ability as well, so you can do a mortal blow to often finish them off. The cooldown of 20 seconds is also amazing, so you can use it very often. It's like fine against high health targets, but especially amazing to quickly deal with multiple regular enemies.
Thanks Jordan, I should really try this one out more often myself as well. It looks awesome and we got more amazing abilities to discuss, but if you like the video so far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe as we got more Final Fantasy 16 videos coming your way. Now while it's really fun to juggle enemies in the air or toss them around with Ignition, these tactics won't work on bosses or mini-bosses. My favorite way of taking these down is by using the Titan ability Raging Fists. By itself, the ability is nothing special. Clive steps forward and releases a series of rapid punches with a giant stone fist. But when you use the first step of this ability to block an attack, it turns into a very powerful counter where a flurry of Titan fists appear out of nowhere and pummel down on your target. You can even increase the number of hits if you keep mashing the button after you hit the counter, allowing you to deal some very decent stagger and health damage. The best part is, the better you become at parrying enemy attacks, the better the ability becomes, because successfully countering an attack with Raging Fists also reduces its cooldown by half. Meaning you go from having to wait 30 seconds to only 15 before you can use it again. And being able to pull off such a powerful counter against a boss every 15 seconds will really do some work on them. There are of course more amazing abilities to discuss, but in order to do that I do need to cover some of the late game icons you might not know about yet. Of course no story details, but if you don't want to know what they are or what they look like in gameplay, you can come back to the video later. Alright, if you're still here, let's go over another pretty unique ability that buffs Clive's overall magic power. It's part of Bahamut's skill set and is called Satellite. At base level, you summon an orb that follows Clive around and shoots out magic whenever he does. But we immediately want to upgrade it to its second level to add a second orb and double down on the extra damage we are getting. Because the basic idea of Satellite is that whenever you cast magic, these little orbs will too, increasing your damage dealt by a pretty significant amount. While your regular blasts still don't do that much damage, charged shots now can easily nuke the stagger bar on stronger enemies by repeatedly blasting them from range. And even in melee, these satellite orbs are still helpful, as they will also fire a blast when you hit a magic burst in between your sword hits. The cooldown on the ability also starts after you use it, not when the orbs disappear, meaning that there's actually very little downtime on the spell. So while it's not a flashy ability like Flames of the Phoenix, having Satellite up increases pretty much all your regular damage, and it's pretty cheap to upgrade and master too, meaning you can easily slot it under any icon. And while Satellite might not be big and flashy, Bahamut does have a very powerful damage spell in its arsenal with Giga Flare. This gigantic laser beam will absolutely melt enemy health bars and can even be used on bosses during a stagger window to deal massive damage. Clive is locked in place while casting it, and while you can control the direction of the beam slightly with the left or right stick, you can't really turn around. But like Flames of the Phoenix, this ability slows down time when you use it, meaning you don't really have to worry about enemies hitting you. It also slows how fast the stagger bar fills back up, like we discussed in our combat tips video, meaning it's an excellent pick to maximize your damage in a stagger window. We'll link to that video in the description for if you haven't watched it yet, by the way. Upgrading Giga Flare will cost you a lot of points, but it's absolutely worth it as it increases the hit count on the laser beam, meaning it deals even more damage. And if you really want to go ham during a stagger phase, you should also add Ramuh's lightning rod into the mix. It spawns a stationary lightning orb that damages nearby enemies when struck. And since every individual tick of damage from Giga Flare counts as a hit, this will massively increase your damage output if you combine the two on a stagger target. By first putting down lightning rod, I was able to increase my damage in a single stagger window from 24,000 to 41,000. Shout out to Arekkz Gaming for teaching me about that combo. Link to their video will be in the description. Another one of my favorite burst damage combos in the game is pairing Giga Flare with Shiva's Diamond Dust. Now this is another one of those powerful ultimate abilities in an icon's ability tree, meaning it costs a lot of ability points. But what you get back for that is an ability that is both amazing for clearing out groups and dealing massive damage to bosses. Diamond Dust is a two-part ability, with you freezing everything solid with the first step and then creating a wave of ice crystals that deal high damage to enemies caught in the blast. Upgrading the ability adds a second wave of ice crystals and increases the hit count on the first, increasing the overall damage of the ability by a large amount. So it's great to snap freeze a group of enemies and deal massive damage to them, but where most AoE abilities aren't great at doing boss damage, Diamond Dust also takes a huge chunk away from their health bars. So while it can be used to deal a lot of stagger damage too, I recommend saving the ability for when you have the boss staggered to melt away their health bar. And while you can slot Diamond Dust under any icon if you master the ability, I highly recommend always having Shiva in your active loadout. Her circle ability Cold Snap is absolutely incredible, as it allows you to freeze enemies in place. You can do this by dodging twice in quick succession, which will leave behind an ice crystal that works like a mine and freezes an enemy when they touch it. But it's even better if you perform a perfect dodge, as this will trigger Clive to perform the permafrost move that freezes all enemies within a big radius. So this easily sets you up for a follow-up combo or an iconic ability. My favorite use for permafrost is actually pairing it with another very powerful icon, namely Odin. Odin is a bit unique because most of his individual abilities aren't that strong, but they all fill up your Zantetsuken gauge, which you can then use to unleash a very powerful attack that becomes stronger the higher the level of the gauge is. By default, you can go up to level 3, but by upgrading Odin's circle ability Arms of Darkness, you can also unlock Zantetsuken level 4 and 5. You then perform this move by changing your blade into Odin's by pressing circle and then holding the square button and releasing it for a charged attack. The move you perform depends on the level of your Zantetsuken meter, which is also brought back to 0 after you perform one of these. And while they are technically just charged attacks, not abilities, they deal massive damage in a huge area, so you want to keep filling up that meter. And that is where Shiva's Permafrost comes in. After freezing an enemy, you can quickly swap to Odin and follow up with some abilities to quickly quickly fill the Zantetsuken gauge. The best one for this is Dancing Steel, which needs to charge up for a bit but then unleashes a very lengthy combo that's often enough to fill up to 3 levels of Zantetsuken. So combining it with Permafrost gives you the perfect setup to safely charge up and then unleash the full combo. You can use other moves too, or change your blade into Odin's and then unleash some regular attacks to charge your powerful Zantetsuken. But this Permafrost Dancing Steel combo is definitely the strongest in my book, and it's helped me absolutely dumpster some of the late game hunt targets. Let me know your favorite abilities in the comments below and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to not miss our upcoming content on the game, and if you want, you can watch our previous video on how to get the best weapon in the game by clicking on the screen. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.